Hi kids, welcome to the St. Charles Fire Department. My name is Firefighter Jeff, and I brought you here to Sparky's house, and we're going to be talking about fire safety. Well, first, before we talk about fire safety, we have to talk about fires and what we think about them. Who here thinks that fire is good? Raise your hand. Okay, we have some hands. Who here thinks that fire is bad? Okay, so we have some hands there too. Now, who thinks that fire could be good or bad? Okay, I see a lot of hands on this one. Now, you know what? I think fire can be good and fire can be bad. So let's look at a couple things though. So first of all, who here likes cold, crunchy macaroni and cheese? Not me. Do you like warm, creamy mac and cheese? Well, Mom and Dad, when they use a stove as a tool, and it's got a little bit of fire right on top of here. When they use the stove as a tool to warm up water, to warm up our macaroni and cheese, that would be a good fire, wouldn't it? So another example of a good fire, it's kind of getting a little cold outside now, so I have a fireplace at home. Now, if we sit by the fireplace and have a fire in there and it warms up our house, or our furnace warms up our house, that would be a good fire too, wouldn't it? Because that would be grown-ups using fire to help us. Now, what happens if a young child maybe tries to cook on the fireplace? Or you think if we got too close to the fireplace and maybe the fire jumped out and got onto a blanket that we're sitting by, then that would be a bad fire, isn't it? So really, if fire can get anywhere where it doesn't belong and can get on our clothes or in our house, it would be a bad fire. Well, you know what? Let's look at some ways that we can prevent fire from happening and really learn how fire does happen so we can prevent it from happening. So Firefighter Mike is going to help us here. He has a sign, okay? And so these words that some of you guys can read here, let's all read these things together. So you need 3 things together to get fire, okay? So first of all, what I want you guys to do here, can you read this? This says oxygen or air. What I want you guys to do now is go, breathe with me, go like this. What are you guys doing? Breathing, right? Did you know that fire actually breathes just like us? Fire needs air just like us to live. Okay, so if we have air all around us all the time, it has air already. So the next thing that it needs is fuel. Well, what is fuel? Well, when we think of fuel, I think normally we think of gasoline. This is a gas can for like a lawnmower. We use this in our cars too. So that's what we call a fuel. But really anything like my clothes or the blanket on the bed here, the counter, anything that can burn would be a fuel. Okay? So if we have air and a fuel that can burn, the last thing that we need, can you guys read this? It says heat. So something that we talked about before about the stove being hot with a fire on there, anything that can burn would be heat. Well, you know what? This is kind of maybe a little confusing because we just have some words here and we've been talking about. Do you guys want to look at some examples? Thank you, Firefighter Mike. Well, let's look at some things we have here. So first of all, I have a lamp. Okay? Now, some people don't realize that the lamp can get really hot after it's on for a little while. So even adults, when we change a light bulb, if the light burns out, we want to wait for a while before we ever touch the light bulb because it can burn our fingers, okay? So kids, you would never want to actually touch a light bulb because it could burn us. Plus it's glass and we don't want to get cut if it breaks, right? Well, a light can get very warm, and if it gets warm, that would be heat, right? And we have air all the time. Now, if something like this shirt can burn, what is that called? Do you remember? A fuel, right. So this is a fuel, and if we get it next to something that is hot, what could happen? A fire, right. So if it gets close, we could get a fire. So if we keep those things apart, what don't we get? Fire, right? So when you guys are coming home from school, or maybe you're playing outside and you want to come home from school and you get undressed really quick and you want to put on some play clothes and go outside, you guys just throw your clothes all around the room. What did I just do? So you would never want to throw your clothes on a lamp or even on accident because it might start a fire, right? So let's look at something else over here. What do I have right here? So I have my backpack, which if a backpack can burn, what would it be called? A fuel. Good job, guys. So if I have a fuel and I go and oh no. Do you know what I did when I was talking about good fires and bad fires? I accidentally put the handle facing out on the stove here. So if we have the handle facing in, do you see how I wouldn't bump it there? But I had the handle facing out that I did on accident so that hot soup or macaroni and cheese could have fallen and burned me. So you guys can be helpful at home. I know this isn't about how fires start, but you can be helpful and remind mom and dad to turn the handles in. Okay, so it can keep you guys from getting burned and help mom and dad stay safe too. Well, what I was going to show you is a backpack, is a fuel, and a stove gets really hot, right? So if we come home from school, should we use the stove as a counter and put a fuel on top of something that can get hot? No, we don't want to do that, right? Because what can happen? A fire, right? So if we keep that where it belongs, maybe I bring it into my bedroom and I put it on my bed instead of on the stove, what won't we get? A fire. Good job, everybody.